I remember the night like it happened yesterday. The room was dark except for the faint glow of the bedside lamp. Ethan's arm was draped over my waist, his breathing deep and steady beside me. His warmth should have been comforting, but my body felt like a stranger under his touch. My heart was there, but it was not his anymore. As he whispered my name in his sleep, I closed my eyes, and saw someone else's face. I was lying in my husband's bed, but dreaming of another man's hands. Before we go deeper into this story, I just want to take a moment to appreciate every single one of you watching. To my loyal subscribers, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the love, comments, and support that fuel this channel. And to my new and returning viewers who are yet to subscribe, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button right now. It serves as the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. Please remember to like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your reactions are everything to me. Now, let me take you into my world. My name is Amanda. I am 32 years old, and for 8 years, I have been married to a man who loves me more than I have ever loved myself. Ethan is a good man, the kind people say every woman dreams of having. He is steady, dependable, and the kind of husband who still opens the car door and kisses my forehead every morning before leaving for work. We live in a quiet suburban neighborhood in North Carolina, the kind of place where neighbors wave from across manicured lawns and children ride bikes until sunset. From the outside, our life looked perfect: 2 kids, a house filled with laughter, and a marriage others envied. But inside me, something had died. It was not sudden. It happened slowly, like a candle burning to the end of its wick. The excitement we once had disappeared, replaced by routines and responsibilities. I stopped dressing up. He stopped noticing. Our conversations turned into checklists. Groceries, bills, school schedules. We still said I love you, but it began to sound like habit, not passion. Then came Liam. He was hired to handle the renovation of my office, a new wing for the marketing firm I worked with in Charlotte. He was confident but not arrogant, charming in a quiet way. His voice carried warmth, his smile had a calm danger to it. The first time he looked at me, really looked at me, it felt like he saw through the walls I had built. I tried to ignore it at first. It was innocent, small talk, polite smiles, casual laughter. But there was something magnetic about him. When he spoke, I found myself leaning closer. When he brushed past me, I felt my skin awaken. I began to notice how empty I had become, how starved I was for attention, for touch, for excitement. Each night, I came home to Ethan, cooked dinner, helped our kids with homework, and climbed into bed beside the man who adored me. But my thoughts were elsewhere. My body lay next to Ethan, but my imagination belonged to Liam. I hated myself for it, yet I could not stop. The first time it became real was on a Friday night. Ethan was watching a late football game in the living room while I sat in our bed pretending to read. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a message: Liam, could not stop thinking about your smile today. My heart skipped. My hands trembled. I stared at the message for several seconds before setting the phone down, trying to resist the wave of emotion that flooded me. But it was too late. The spark had turned into a fire I could no longer hide from. That night, I lay beside Ethan as he turned off the TV and came to bed. He wrapped his arm around me, kissed my shoulder, and whispered, "Good night, sweetheart." I whispered it back, but my heart was screaming someone else's name. I remember staring at the ceiling long after Ethan fell asleep. The silence was deafening. My guilt pressed against my chest, but another part of me, the part that felt alive for the first time in years, refused to let go of the fantasy. I reached for my phone, opened Liam's message, and this time I replied. "You should not say that," I wrote. He replied almost instantly, "Then tell me not to mean it." Those words sank into me like poison wrapped in honey. I put my phone down, but the message stayed in my mind all night. I could not sleep. Every sound of Ethan breathing beside me reminded me of what I was about to risk, yet what I secretly craved. The next morning, I avoided eye contact with Ethan as I made breakfast. He noticed something was off but said nothing. I told him I was tired, maybe coming down with a cold. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and told me to rest. That kindness hurt more than anger ever could. At work, I saw Liam again. Our eyes met across the hallway, and I knew he had felt my late-night reply the same way I had, as a door opening. That week became a blur of temptation. Hidden smiles. Lingering touches. Conversations that went deeper than they should. At night, the guilt grew heavier. Lying next to Ethan, I began to feel like a stranger in my own life. Every time he touched me, my body tensed, not because I did not want him, but because my mind was somewhere else entirely. I was falling for a man who did not belong in my world, while sleeping next to one who had given me everything. The worst part was that Ethan never suspected. He still brought me coffee in the mornings. He still texted me during the day just to say he loved me. His loyalty was a mirror reflecting my betrayal, and every time I looked into it, I saw a woman I did not recognize. One night, as rain tapped against the window, Ethan turned in bed and pulled me close. His hand rested gently on my stomach, and his voice whispered something about a vacation, about us needing time together. I nodded, pretending to be half asleep, but in truth, I was wide awake, imagining Liam's lips instead of Ethan's voice. That night, I made a decision that would destroy everything. When Ethan drifted off to sleep, I reached for my phone, my heart racing as if my body already knew it was crossing a line. I typed, "I cannot stop thinking about you." When Liam replied, "Then do not stop," I knew my world was about to change. I was lying in my husband's bed, but my heart was already gone. The rain came down hard that evening, washing over the quiet streets like a secret trying to cleanse itself. The sky was dark, the kind that makes the world feel smaller, and that night, my choices began to close in on me. Ethan had taken our children to visit his parents for the weekend. He asked if I wanted to come, but I told him I had a project deadline and could not take the time off. He believed me without question. That blind trust was both comforting and unbearable. The house felt heavy after they left. I walked through the rooms in silence, hearing only the hum of the refrigerator and the storm outside. Every framed photo, every memory, seemed to watch me with quiet judgment. I poured a glass of wine, but it did not ease the ache in my chest. Then my phone buzzed. "Liam, are you home?" For a long moment, I stared at the screen. My heart pounded in my throat. I should have ignored it. I should have deleted his number, blocked his messages, and gone to bed. But instead, I typed the words that changed everything. "Yes." He replied, "I am outside." I froze. Lightning flashed through the window, and I saw the faint shadow of his truck parked at the curb. My legs trembled as I went to the door, each step echoing with guilt. When I opened it, the cold air rushed in, and so did the man who had been haunting my thoughts for weeks. Liam's clothes were damp from the rain. His hair clung to his forehead. But his eyes, those sharp, searching eyes, burned with something dangerous. He did not ask permission. He stepped closer, his scent a mix of rain and cedar, and suddenly the space between us disappeared. It was not gentle. It was not patient. It was a storm that had been waiting to break. His hands found my face, and before I could think, my lips met his. The kiss was fierce, desperate, and wrong in every way that felt right. Every suppressed feeling, every lonely night, came pouring out of me like a dam breaking. When his lips left mine, he whispered my name, and the sound of it, so raw and real, shattered the quiet house. For a moment, time stopped. The world outside continued to pour, but in that living room, nothing else existed except the truth I had been running from. I wish I could say I stopped there. That I pushed him away, told him it was a mistake, and ran upstairs to call Ethan in tears. But I did not. I let the night take me. I let the loneliness inside me speak louder than the vows I had made. What happened next was not just physical, it was emotional, reckless, and inevitable. It was two broken people finding pieces of themselves in the wrong place. The rain outside became the rhythm of our sin. When it was over, I lay in silence, my heart racing, my body trembling. The reality of what I had done began to sink in like ice. I felt Liam's arm around me, his fingers tracing lazy circles on my skin, but the warmth made me sick. I had betrayed the man who trusted me the most. He whispered something soft that I barely heard, but my mind was already drowning in guilt. I stood up, pulled the blanket tighter around me, and walked to the window. The rain had stopped, but the streets were soaked, shining under the streetlights like glass. "I should go," Liam finally said. His voice carried a quiet regret, but not enough to undo what we had done. I nodded, unable to meet his eyes. He dressed in silence and left without another word. When the door closed behind him, I sank to the floor and cried until my body ached. Every tear felt like a confession. Every breath felt like punishment. Later that night, I took a shower that seemed to last forever. The water was hot, but I could not wash away the shame. I stared at myself in the mirror afterward, searching for a version of me I could still recognize. But all I saw was a stranger, a woman who had traded her integrity for a moment of attention. When Ethan and the children returned the next afternoon, I had already washed the sheets, scrubbed the floors, and tried to erase every trace of what had happened. Ethan walked in with his usual smile, kissed my cheek, and told me his parents sent their love. I smiled back, pretending that everything was fine, pretending that I was still the wife he left 2 days ago. But inside, I was falling apart. Every time Ethan looked at me, I felt the weight of my secret pressing against my ribs. He talked about dinner plans, about work, about the kids, but all I could hear was the echo of my betrayal. That night, when we went to bed, I could barely breathe. He lay beside me, his hand finding mine under the blanket, and for a second, I almost pulled away. But I stayed still, silent, pretending to sleep. I could still smell Liam's cologne in my memory, and it made me want to scream. Days turned into weeks. I went through motions, but I was not living, I was hiding. Every text from Liam brought a rush of fear and excitement. Every touch from Ethan reminded me of how far I had fallen. The guilt became a ghost that followed me everywhere. At work, I caught myself staring out the window, lost in thought. At home, I found excuses to stay late or sleep early. I avoided Ethan's eyes. I avoided my own reflection. I told myself I would end it. That I would block Liam, forget him, and rebuild what I had destroyed inside my marriage. But temptation has a way of whispering when guilt tries to shout. One afternoon, Ethan called to say he would be home late. I sat on the couch, phone in hand, debating with my conscience. And then, as if fate wanted to test me, another message appeared. "Liam, I miss you." Those 3 words were simple, but they shattered whatever fragile resolve I had left. My heart raced, my hands shook, and even though every part of me knew it was wrong, I replied. That reply sealed my fate. The next time we met, it was not out of loneliness, it was out of choice. What began as desire turned into a dangerous pattern. And with every meeting, I lost more of myself. But no secret stays buried forever. And soon, the truth that I thought I could control began to crawl out of the shadows, slowly, cruelly, and with consequences I was not prepared to face. It began with a phone vibration. A single sound that shattered the fragile lie I had been living for months. Ethan had been sitting at the kitchen counter that evening, flipping through some bills while I prepared dinner. The children were upstairs doing homework, the TV murmuring softly in the background. Everything looked painfully normal, the calm before a storm I did not see coming. My phone, carelessly left beside the sink, buzzed twice. I did not even notice until Ethan called out, "Amanda, your phone is lighting up." I turned, my heart instantly pounding. My instinct screamed danger. He picked it up before I could reach it, his eyes glancing across the screen. And then, everything stopped. He froze. His jaw tightened. The color drained from his face. He read the message aloud, his voice low, broken. "I miss you already. Last night was everything." The knife I had been using slipped from my hand, clattering against the tile floor. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. Ethan's eyes lifted from the screen and met mine. I had never seen him look that way, not even in anger. It was not fury that filled his eyes. It was devastation. "Who is Liam?" he asked quietly. For a long moment, I could not speak. I tried to find words, excuses, anything, but the silence between us spoke louder than my denial ever could. Tears filled my eyes, and I shook my head as if shaking could undo the truth. "It is not what you think," I whispered weakly. He stood up slowly, his hands trembling as he placed the phone on the counter. "Then what is it, Amanda? Tell me what I am supposed to think." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. My chest tightened. I wanted to tell him everything, the loneliness, the emptiness, the way I lost myself somewhere between being a wife and being a woman. But no explanation could justify betrayal. When I finally spoke, my voice broke apart like glass. "I made a mistake." He laughed, a sound filled with pain, not humor. "A mistake?" He shook his head, eyes glistening. "A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. You made a choice." His words cut deep because they were true. He turned away, pacing back and forth, his hands running through his hair. He was trying to stay calm for the children upstairs, but I could see his entire world collapsing behind his eyes. "How long?" he asked. 3 months, I whispered. The silence that followed was unbearable. He stared at me as if I were a stranger standing in the middle of his home. Then, without another word, he walked to the stairs, called our daughter's name, and told the children to pack a small bag. They were going to his parents' house for the night. When they left, the house felt emptier than ever. The moment the door closed behind them, Ethan came back into the kitchen. His face was calm now, too calm. "I want you to leave," he said. My heart dropped. "Ethan, please. Do not." His voice cracked, but his resolve did not. "Do not ask me to listen to another lie. You broke something in me that I cannot fix. You stood in front of our children every day, pretending nothing was wrong. You slept next to me while dreaming of someone else. You looked me in the eyes every morning knowing you had already left me." Tears streamed down my face. I stepped closer, but he stepped back. "Please, Ethan," I cried. "I will do anything to make this right. I will end it. I will go to therapy. He raised his hand slightly. "You already ended it, Amanda. You ended us." The words fell like a final verdict. He walked past me and opened the front door. The night air rushed in, cold and merciless. "Take whatever you need for now. You can come back for the rest when I am not here." I stood frozen, unable to move. For the first time, I realized the full weight of what I had done. The fantasy that once felt thrilling had turned into a nightmare. The man who had once been my safe place now looked at me like a wound he could not stop bleeding from. I gathered a few things, a bag, my keys, my phone, and walked out into the dark. The sound of the door closing behind me was louder than any storm I had ever heard. That night, I checked into a small motel on the edge of town. The room was cold, the sheets stiff, and the air carried a faint smell of cigarette smoke. I sat on the bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror opposite the window. My mascara had streaked down my cheeks, my eyes hollow from crying. On the nightstand beside me sat my wedding ring, small, golden, and now meaningless. I took it off earlier, not because I wanted to, but because I could no longer bear to wear it. It had become a symbol of everything I destroyed. Liam called later that night. I stared at his name flashing on the screen and let it ring until it stopped. I could not answer. The thrill, the excitement, the fantasy, all of it had vanished. What was left was nothing but ruins. For hours, I sat there, replaying every moment, every message, every lie, every time I looked at Ethan and told him I loved him. I wondered when exactly I had crossed the line from unhappy to unfaithful. Maybe it was the first text. Maybe it was the night I let loneliness disguise itself as passion. But in the end, the reason no longer mattered. What mattered was what I lost. Ethan did not call for days. I did not blame him. He had every right to hate me, to never look at me again. He was the kind of man who built his world on trust, and I had turned that trust into ashes. I used to think love could survive anything. But now I know that betrayal kills something deeper than love, it kills respect. And once that is gone, there is no coming back. Weeks passed. The house was no longer mine. Ethan filed for separation. The kids stayed with him most of the time. I would see them on weekends, pretending to be strong while watching the distance grow between us all. There were nights I drove past our old street, parking far enough not to be seen. Through the living room window, I could see the warm glow of lights, the silhouettes of my family moving around inside, a picture of the life I threw away. And in those moments, I realized that sometimes, the worst punishment is not losing the person you love, it is watching them heal without you. Ethan never forgave me. He moved on quietly, with dignity, the way good men do when they are too hurt to fight anymore. I never blamed him for that. I blamed myself. Because in the end, I was the one who slept in his bed, while dreaming of someone else. And dreams, when fed by desire and deceit, can destroy everything that was ever real.